Hi everybody, my name is Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food on Facebook and YouTube. And yesterday I went to an all-day seminar on understanding addictions, food, drugs, alcohol. But there was a lot of emphasis on food, and it was great. And she talked about the Yale Food Addiction Scale. And this is very, very interesting. And also, so I printed it when I got home. And also, as you can see, the tiniest of print. I should have enlarged it before I did it. So this survey asks about your eating habits in the past year, just the past year. People sometimes have difficulty controlling their intake of certain foods. Yeah, think. Such as sweets like ice cream, chocolate, donuts, cookies, cake, candy, and ice cream. Starches like white bread, rolls, pasta, and rice. Salty snacks like chips, pretzels, and crackers. Fatty foods like steak, bacon, hamburgers, cheeseburgers, pizza, and French fries. Sugary drinks like soda pop. And when the following question is asked, this is just provocative, a provocative video, so you can, a podcast, excuse me, so you can be thinking about your relationship with your food. This isn't anything we're going to test on, because when I read how to score it, it's like, are you kidding me? When the following questions ask about certain foods, please think of any foods similar to those listed in the food group, or any other food you have had a problem with in the last year. In the past 12 months, I find that when I start eating certain foods, I end up eating much more than planned. Yes, like especially if you're someplace when cheesecake must have been her drug of choice at one point. She was a trim, snappy woman of 73 who didn't look it. And, but she uses cheesecake an awful lot for the can I have? So, 2, I find myself continuing to consume certain foods even though I'm no longer hungry. Well, that definitely got me here, which is why I got into the smaller bowls, smaller plates, smaller eating utensils, and weighing and measuring. Because if I have a full bowl that is this big, more like one of those sipping cups that they use. I mean, I got a bunch of them at Pier 1, and that is overloaded, but it's really only 2 ounces, then I'm psychologically as satisfied even if my full button isn't registering. And I'm aware enough to know that with smaller portions, it's going to take a few minutes to register from my belly to my head that I've eaten. So, in the past, without awareness, I probably could have kept going with a jar of peanut butter or something like that until I was way past to the extreme, right? Like the other video the other day. The extreme of overfull. I mean, I can't imagine polishing off a jar of peanut butter or a container of Ben & Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs like I used to. Or the equivalent of probably a dozen cookies, but it was cookie dough, and how dangerous that is these days. So those were, yes, and I knew I was doing it, but it was there, I was there, and I wasn't going to throw it out. I only got to throwing out things like, say, I brought home, I don't know, I remember one time I went to Not Your Average Joe's, which is a local chain up here in the Northeast, and the guy was new, so instead of giving me a piece of something for my birthday, because you get a free dessert, he gave me the whole cake. And so we wrapped it to bring it home. And I remember just tucking into it later, like, oh, okay, it's your birthday, you can have this. And then throwing it away upside down and then putting all kinds of heinous things like coffee grounds and other kind of, cat food dishes and stuff like that on top of it, so I wouldn't go after it. But I was completely pigged out, grossed out. But I know that feeling of like a Ben & Jerry's container, right? 8 ounces, something like 300 calories and 4 ounces. And a little dish, 2 or 3 ounces of like a gelato, which I don't have at all. except those 2 times a year I go out to eat, literally. But say I did have it at home and it was measured out and it was 2 or 3 ounces, and when this container is empty, I'm done. That's the difference. But this thing used to be my single serving. And, you know, like this is now the new container of single serve Coke or even Diet Coke. It's like a 20-ounce container. And even though on the back of it, it says servings per container, 2.5, most Americans today think the same thing with the big coffees with the stuff in it. And you got to have enough sweet and white in it to make it like how this is considered a cup of coffee, which is like 6 ounces. I'm having my bulletproof. She didn't talk about bulletproofs, but I digress. This is not we will not be just doing all of this time. 3, oh, I guess I just covered it. I eat to the point where I feel physically ill. Often I did. Quite often I did. And now looking back and studying my own behavior, I know when that switch was flipped. I knew it. And there was a message saying, you flipped your switch. You know, if you have one more bite after this, what's going to happen? And I would still continue to do it. It would be, I'm not going to blame it on my food addiction, but, it came from this container, this container called Sarah. I would flip the switch and keep going, even knowing that I flipped the switch. And that's why being accountable to you here and on my tracker and with people face to face, I need that. I need that accountability. I can't flip the switch anymore because that never gets better. It only is maintained. Okay, this is number 4. We'll stop at 6. Not eating certain types of foods or cutting down on certain type of food is something I worry about. Probably that would apply, further back. I definitely get enough veggies. I definitely get enough of what I'm supposed to eat and weigh and measure fruit now. Cutting down on certain types of food is something I worry about. I know that I could go hog wild, pun intended, with pork. I love pork. I love bacon. I love pork chops. I love roast pork. I love all parts of it, just like certain parts of beef. But I have to be very careful. I have to weigh and measure. 3 is usually the least that my meat portion weighs, and 4 is usually the most that my meat portion weighs. Sometimes if I'm having like a 6-ounce filet mignon on Saturday night with our steak big green egg night, it'll be 6 ounces. But, Tuesday through Saturday, Sunday through Friday, my portions of meat would be 3 to 4 ounces at dinner. And at lunch, it's usually a yogurt or that rollatini or a Vermont Smoke and Cure meat stick or hard-boiled eggs, something like that. I rarely have like a little hunk of animal protein then. Okay. 5. I spend a lot of time feeling sluggish or fatigued from overeating. Used to definitely in the summer with grains. I felt bloated. I felt fatigued. I felt sluggish. I had food coma from lunchtime on, and I didn't with the cereal. But I was hungry less than 2 hours later when I used to have my brand cereal, my Trader Joe's brand cereal with the kashi mix on top and the banana. That went right through me in 2 hours, and I was hungry again by 9, sometimes even earlier. But at 9, I could start feeling it. I know that constantly fatigued and sluggish feeling. Do you feel that way sometimes? If you're still eating grains, and I don't mean a bowl of oatmeal or a sweet potato, well, that's not a grain, or perhaps sometimes a small portion of rice, I'm talking about the other stuff, you know, the bread, the pizza, the crackers, the cereals, the garbage. Add the sugar, add more fat, and have the standard American diet. So, and then the final one, I find myself constantly eating certain foods throughout the day. Well, no, that is post Weight Watchers and awareness. I don't, but before then, you know, eating, what is that saying? Eating without my permission, certain foods throughout the day. I don't know. I mean, I've had decades to think about this, work on this, seeing I started in OA when I was in my 20s. So, no, it's not like I've seen that behavior where I work with like a bag of Doritos. And so I understand what that question means. Like if you've got a bag of Doritos and you walk through the kitchen from morning until dinner, maybe even after dinner, but I'm never there, and you open that bag and have just a few as you're walking through, just a few, and I'll say, get out a little bowl and, you know, pour in a very small portion and sit and eat it and enjoy it. But instead they do that eat and walk thing, which I've told them their brain isn't registering that they've had the goodie, and it's not as much fun, even though they think it's a cute little snacky snack, but they're missing that joy of sitting and having it, at least for me. That would be me. I mean, if you're going to have a food addiction, have mine, okay? So anyway, that's it. We went through 6 questions of the Yale food addiction scale, and it will be revisited. It's just interesting and provocative when you think back of your food history and whether or not you have an addiction or you just eat too much of the wrong things. Because I'm sure a lot of people here wouldn't say they had a food addiction, but they ate a lot of the wrong things and don't want to eat a lot of the wrong things. Woo! Here we go. Have a wonderful day. This has been Sarah. Please comment below. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.